spoil them little
Look at
buggers
this
and
man.
send them
Look at
home.
this guy. Look at this guy.
I'll tell you.
Most of the time. If Laura lets me have the keys.
I got you. I got you.
Good morning. We'll call this meeting of the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee to order. If everyone would log in to your station, we'll get everybody ready to take the roll. Clerk, please open the roll to be taken. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, we have 14 members present. We have a quorum.
Thank you for that. This morning, we'll start out with a prayer and a pledge. I would ask Chairman Halsey to say a prayer and then Mr. Representative Stinnett to lead us in a pledge. If all will stand, please.
Father, we thank you for another day. Thank you that you are both our sacrifice and our high priest. Thank you for this time. I pray that we will use it wisely in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have one announcement to make before we get everything kicked off. The Tennessee Forestry Association Tree Day will be held tomorrow. Tennessee Forestry Association members will be distributing white oak seedlings to all legislative offices, along with mugs and other information. Also, the Forestry Association reception will be held at the downtown Sheraton Sky Room tomorrow evening from 5 to 7. Anchor Transportation Shuttles will provide transportation from the entrance of this building on Representative John Lewis Way to and from the downtown Sheraton. So it's something everybody can look forward to. And I wanted to read a little something here about part of our history. Just after lunch one Christmas day, a French missionary was traveling near present-day Memphis when he felt the ground shake. His description of the phenomenon is thought to be the first written record of an earthquake caused by the New Madrid Fault. The year was 1699. The New Madrid seismic zone begins in New Madrid, Missouri, and stretches across northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, west Kentucky, and southern Illinois. It has been the source of some of the strongest and most prolific earthquakes in the southern United States, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The western part of Tennessee was shaken by 3 quakes originating at the fault line during the years of 1811 and 1812. They are amongst the strongest in U.S. history, with the maximum intensity defined as damage total. Records tell of fissures, sinks, and other topographical impacts, as well as chimneys falling in parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri. The well-known damage from the quake was in the sunken land in Obiad County, Tennessee, that created Reelfoot Lake. According to records, the shallow lake was filled when the Mississippi River flowed backward for a period of 10 to 24 hours. Many smaller quakes have occurred from the fault since that time, and the potential remains for another series of strong quakes in the future, geologists say. Quakes from the New Madrid seismic zone would threaten parts of Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi. Very interesting components of the western part of the state for sure. This morning, we'll take up our calendar first. We have a lot on the agenda today. And the first bill we have up is HJR 171 by Representative Darby. Chairman Darby, we have a motion and a second. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution to the appointment of Michael Biddle of Knoxville. And I've got a little bit of a bio here, if I could read.
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Biddle graduated from Skidmore College in 1989 with a degree in business and government. Before moving to Tennessee a few years ago, Michael was the CEO of the Adirondack Chamber of Commerce in New York. And before that, he was the co-CEO of the King Arthur Flour Company in Vermont and the COO of Hometown Healthcare. After an early retirement and a move to the Knoxville area, Michael wanted to get more involved in serving the state of Tennessee and was appointed by Governor Lee earlier this year to serve as one of the public members on the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners. In the agriculture field, Michael has plenty of experience ranging from advising members of Congress on agricultural policy to chairing multiple committees dealing with land conservation. He wrote 2 land conservation bills for Congressman Chris Gibson in New York that were ultimately added to the 2014 Farm Bill and passed by Congress. In his personal life, Mike was very active in his church community and is an avid hunter, fisherman, and outdoorsman with a passion for land conservation.
Thank you for that. And I think we would love to hear from Mr. Biddle real quick and maybe have a comment or two from the committee. So if there's no objection, we will go out of session to do that. We are out of session. Mr. Biddle, I recognize you for a minute or two, and then there may be some members that have some questions or comments for you. You're recognized. It's on.
Thank you, Chairman Todd. Thank you, Ag Committee. I'd like to also recognize my beautiful wife and CEO of Biddle Incorporated, Wendy Biddle, and my handsome son who takes after Mama, Reagan. Are in the crowd today. Thank you so much for having me here. What a blessing to be here before you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the good citizens of our beautiful state, the state of Tennessee. Also, my time is taken up as Director of Men's Ministry at Dixie Lee Baptist Church in Loudoun County, Tennessee, where my ultimate service is to the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you for that, sir. I have one so far. Representative Fritz, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is good to have roots in Loudoun County. I agree with you. I get the opportunity to serve the north half there, so welcome. And just had one quick question for you. What do you think is your greatest service in public service? What's your greatest accomplishment in public service? I saw a letter even Congressman Elise had sent in complimenting you. So I just wanted to hear what you thought was your most significant contribution in public service.
Mr. Biddle.
Thank you, Representative Fritz. Thank you for the question. We came from the second poorest county in the state of New York. There's 62 counties in New York, and Washington County is the second poorest with about $28,000 average household income. And I think one of the biggest service was during COVID, delivering food to neighbors. We only had 60,000 people in our county, sir. And there's nothing more humbling than delivering food to folks through a tough time. And a lot of our neighbors had dirt floors and outdoor plumbing. And like I said, sir, that out of all the other things that the kind representative had in my bio, I think that is probably the highest point of my servitude, sir.
Thank you for that. Representative Fritz.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Seeing no others, thank you for being here with us. We will go back into session. Back in session. Any other discussion on the HJR? Seeing none, all in favor of this, please vote aye. We'll start the voting. Any opposed? No. Okay, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Okay, the ayes have it. Motion carries. This moves on to calendar and rules. Thank you, Mr. Biddle. Next, we have HJR 161 by Chairman Darby. Chairman Darby, you're recognized. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HJR 0161 is another resolution to confirm the appointment of Ms. Jean Felipe And if I could I give a little biography here, Mr.
You may
Chairman?
proceed. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sharon received her master's degree in botany from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville in 2005, and then returned to Knoxville to earn her PhD in natural resources. She began her career as an assistant professor of urban forestry in 2010, and in July of 2021, she became a full-time professor of urban forestry. In June 2023, she became the faculty director of undergraduate research and a fellowship in the university's Division for Student Success. She is also a UT Ag Extension Specialist, assisting statewide extension agents in developing programming. In addition, Jean is an ISA certified arborist.
Thank you for that. And we would love to hear from Ms. Jean-Philippe. So we will go out of session without objection. We're out of session. Jean, is it Jean-Philippe?
It is Jean-Philippe. Thank
Okay.
you so much. And thank you all. I would like to acknowledge my master's student, Kayla Stewart, that's in the audience, who graciously surprised me. So thank you, Kayla. It was quite a surprise. And also my husband, who's a high school teacher at Maryville High School, who's actually looking online with his classroom at this moment. So that's quite exciting. This is my second time. This will be my second appointment to the Forestry Commission. For the first 5 years, I've served as the secretary, where it has been a true blessing to represent the public at large. When you have over 70% of our public living within cities, how do they connect back to the forest, right? And so the Forestry Commission affords them the opportunity through a number of programs to allow that to happen. So I'm thankful to serve another term, and especially in the time and space that we live in, with so many people flocking to the state of Tennessee, in our state being over 52% forested, they need to know how to manage their forest land. So I'm happy to serve another term. Thank you.
We are certainly glad to have you. Any questions or comments for Ms. Jean-Philippe? Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you so much for your willingness to serve and go Big Orange. And could you just elaborate just a little bit on your passion in forestry and how that relates to not just the urban community, but to folks that live out in the rural areas as well?
No.
Ms. Jean-Philippe?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I'm a city girl. And so at the end of the day, I grew up in a place, in a space where the forest was within a city setting, but I'm a country girl because my family's from Temple, Georgia. And so all of my summers until I went to school at Tennessee State University around the corner was spent in Temple, Georgia, which is probably about 40 miles outside of Atlanta, with my Grandmama Keller. And so we farmed on that land. She had about 100 acres of pine. And so I do understand the connection between that urban to rural gradient, and teaching people about how forests change, but also benefits of forest to people. I will use my teacher voice at the end of the day.
Thank you for that. Representative Stinnett, you're recognized. Members, if y'all would, we've got can we log back in, clerks? We certainly can. We're going to have to go to roll call votes by voice after this, but just to be able to activate the microphones, are we able to get folks to log back in? Okay, everybody log back in. We had a little glitch in the system. Okay, Representative Stinnett, we'll go ahead and recognize you.
Thank you, Chairman. Sharon, Tom Stinnett, Smith High. I taught school with Smith for a number of years, and we're so glad that you're in Blount County.
Mhm.
I know you go to Knoxville every day, but you and Smith are very precious to us in Blount County. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Any further questions or comments? All right, thank you, Ms. Jean-Philippe. I appreciate you being here. We'll go back into session. We are back in session now, and if there are no further discussions, we will be voting on HJR 161. All in favor, we will have the clerks, I guess, take the roll, so they will get your vote in just a second. Oh, is it back up and running? Okay, we'll put it on the board then. Going by the seat of our pants here, folks. But we do that quite well, I think. All right, clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Motion carries, and this moves on to calendar and rules. Next, we have HJR 189 by Chairman Darby. I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HJR 0189 is another resolution to confirm the appointment of Mr. Jake Allman. And Mr. Chair, could I read his biography?
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jake Allman is a graduate of North Carolina State University with a degree in forestry and has spent over 42 years in the forest industry. He has spent most of his career working as a consultant for private, non-industrial landowners, serving as the vice president and part owner of the American Forest Management. Jake has served as the president of the Tennessee Forestry Association and on numerous other forestry-related boards. He has since retired from active forest management and works as a realtor for the American Forest Management Real Estate Division. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, sir. And if there are no objections, we'll go out of session and hear from Mr. Allman. No objections, we'll go out of session. We are out of session. Mr. Allman, you are recognized, sir.
Yes, I appreciate this opportunity, and I have been passionate about forestry my whole life. Ever since I was in Boy Scouts and took the forestry merit badge, I said this is what I was going to do. And I have, and I just love working with private landowners. A lot of them who have maybe inherited land and really don't know much about the forest. I try to help them promote good forestry on their forest lands and provide a green belt for Mr. Monty Fritz. Thank you.
Thank you for that, sir. Any questions or comments for Mr. Allman? We appreciate you being here, sir. And without any objection, we'll go back into session. We're back in session. So any further discussion on HJR 189? Seeing none, we'll be voting. Please open the vote, clerk. Please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Thank you for that. The motion carries. House HJR 189 moves on to calendar and rules. Next, item number 4 on our calendar is HJR 193. We have a motion and a second. And who is presenting this? I had Chairman Powers on the list. Okay, there he is. I had missed you. It's just wherever you'd like. I guess the podium. Yeah. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee. HJR 192, it's my honor to introduce Mr. Mark Rogers. Mark lives in my hometown of Caryville. Actually, I have a Jacksboro address, but live in Caryville for 20 years, and Mark understands the problem with that, and we'll never get it solved. But anyway, Mark has a MS in Forest Resource Management from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, my alma mater, and he has a BS in Forestry from the University of Tennessee, and also is a member of the Society of American Foresters and a member of the Tennessee Forestry Association. Mark currently directs the Forest Management Planning, Operations, and Forest Stewardship Council certification across the 253,000-acre Cumberland Forest Project in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, and he's a native of East Tennessee. Lives about a mile from me, matter of fact. Mark has nearly 30 years in forest management experience working with the forest industry in Virginia, and as area forester with the Tennessee Division of Forestry. He enjoys woodworking, gardening, cooking, outdoor activities, and long walks on the beach. I threw that in there. But especially spending time with his wife, Lori, their children and grandchildren. While in college, Mark worked as a residential high school, school for the deaf, and had an opportunity to tutor the American citizenship exam to a deaf international exchange student from China. So if you have any questions for him today, he'll be answering in sign language. So Mark was active in the Boy Scouts of America as a youth in Caryville, Tennessee, and achieving rank of Eagle Scout, and served as a Scoutmaster in Virginia for over 10 years. It is my honor to introduce to you Mr. Mark Rogers.
Thank you for that. And I think the entire committee would be anxious to see photos of that beach near Caryville. Any questions for the sponsor before we go out of session? Okay, without objection, we'll go out of session. We're out of session. Mr. Rogers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the Ag Committee. It's truly an honor to be here and having the opportunity to represent the state of Tennessee and conserve and preserve the great natural resources of the state. I've been passionate about forestry, like Mr. Almond, since I was in Boy Scouts, and spending time outdoors is always been a pleasure to me, and having the opportunity to mold and manipulate the forest and conserve our resources and the water quality of the state is just a true blessing to have that opportunity. And I look forward to working with the remaining members of the Forestry Commission to continue to protect and conserve Tennessee's resources.
Thank you for that, sir. Representative Fritz, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I promise I'm not attempting to speak on every one, but I missed an opportunity, and I want to encourage something for those that may not be aware of what a forestry management plan does for you. It is a tremendous tool, and had the opportunity to get one of those done a few years back. And I appreciate y'all that work in this field and how you can equip folks like me that love to see trees, sometimes love to cut trees, but don't really understand the whole macro biological sphere of forestry. So I appreciate your work, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Seeing no other questions or comments, we appreciate you being here, sir. Without objection, we'll go back into session. We are back in session. Any further comments or questions on HJR 193? Seeing none, we will be taking the vote. Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes.
And HJR passes and moves on to calendar and rules. And this time we're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to go to item number 7 by Chairman Powers. Are you ready to present item number 7? We're going to take you out of order. So while you're still up there,
Yes.
we have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second, so you're recognized, sir.
So it's on 123, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you give me the wrong number?
Be
Okay,
careful who
I've
you
been
get your
given the
information.
wrong number.
Be careful who you get your information from. We
I
are
know.
HB 123.
123, thank you. Sorry. This House Bill 123, it requires the department to provide notice of potential creation of any lien due to a reclamation, including a landowner may avoid and how the landowner may avoid a lien. This is about abandoned coal mines. It's an administration bill, and I have a lot of them in my area. So what they're trying to do is give an opportunity to clean these up and reclaim them. Abandoned coal mines, they pose a serious threat to public health because if you've ever been around one, it's in a high wall and they've been abandoned and people can really get hurt. And we've had people lives start out of there because of that. And to address these threats, the Tennessee Abandoned Mine Land program works to remove the dangerous health and safety hazards, improve the environment, and restore the resources back to make them available for economic development, recreation, and other uses. These updates are necessary to ensure the continued receipt of $8.5 million in annual federal funding through the AML program in Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act. The lien that we were talking about has no bearing on the cost of reclaiming the property, and the lien is a result of a market value on the property after the reclamation. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that description. You've heard the description. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. Please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, we have 16 ayes.
Thank you for that. The motion carries, and this moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. And next, if you'll stay there, we have HJR 177. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized.
All right, thank you. HJR 177 is a request to name the Blue Springs Boat Ramp in honor of U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Terry William Prater. Sergeant Prater made the ultimate sacrifice for our country when he's killed in Iraq in March of 15th, 2007, at the age of 25. Sergeant Prater died along with 4 other soldiers when their vehicle struck an IED. He lived in Claiborne County, and this boat ramp was where he always put his boat in to enjoy what he loved most, fishing. Still today, Sergeant Prater's son, Bryson, launches his boat and fishes from the Blue Springs boat ramp that he loved so well and called it his favorite fishing hole. Sergeant Prater was awarded the Purple Heart, the Silver Star from the President in 2004. He was on his second tour in Iraq when he was killed. This would be a great honor for him and his family to name the ramp after him, where a flotilla of boats were launched at one time to scatter his remains across Norris Lake. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you for that. Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one comment again. Thank you for carrying this so much. Staff Sergeant Prater was a cavalryman, and thank you for bringing honor to his name and remembering his family.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Please open the vote. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, we have 16 ayes.
Thank you for that. The motion carries. HJR 177 moves on to calendar and rules. Next, we have item number 9, House Bill 752 by Chairman Faison. I have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Faison, you are recognized on House Bill 752.
Good morning, committee. Very good to be with you. I don't get to be in that committee very often. I left my glasses somewhere. This is a bill that brought to me by a constituent that I personally took an affection to because I'm an adoptive parent. When you adopt a child, it can take years at time to do it. There's an unbelievable amount of emotional demand on you. Sometimes it's a financial demand. There's families and people involved. Sometimes it can be very difficult. My constituent adopted a child, and later on he realized this child that he adopted loves to hunt and fish. He wanted the ability to get him a lifetime sportsman license that the TWRA offers. Right now, to get a lifetime sportsman license, if you can buy it at the reduced rate for the first 3 years of your child's life. Until they turn 4 years old, you can do that. 36 months, excuse me. Right after 36 months, then it goes up. That also works with an adopted child. And once you adopt, whether you adopt them at 5 years old or 6 years old, I adopted my son and he was almost 5 when I adopted him. Technically, I would have had 3 years from the time, 36 months from the time I adopted him to buy that license for him. I didn't know that was available, didn't get a chance to do that. But this extends it just for adopted families. If somewhere in that window, they adopt a child and they didn't, because of everything that's going on in adoption, if they didn't remember to do that within the first 36 months, this will extend all the way up until they're 13 years old. And that's basically what the bill does. And for me, I know there's people are having a few questions about it. I get that. But when you are part of an adoption, you realize all of the stuff that goes into an adoption. And you find out things you did not know about this child that are familiar or genetic actually built into them. And as you live with them and they grow with you, you're always finding something else different about them. And so this felt like a good idea to help my constituent out. And as you can see, the fiscal note is not significant. This isn't going to impact a lot of people, but it will impact a few people. And I think it would be a great thing for them moving forward.
Any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 13 ayes, 2 present not voting.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you for that. House Bill 752 moves on to calendar and rules. Next, we have House Bill 530 by Chairman Eldridge. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Eldridge, you are recognized on House Bill 530.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill is designed to modernize voter education by allowing online testing instead of requiring a person to take an in-person exam. The question that came up during the subcommittee meeting was, how do you verify that the person that is taking that test is actually the one that's supposed to be taking the test? And they do have 2 ways of verifying. At the beginning of the test, the individual signs a personal affidavit verifying that they are who they say they are. And also, there is identification software that matches an individual to the identification using the computer camera. And this is done with the knowledge of the person that is taking the test. The other thing that the bill does, it allows the TWR Commission to set the fee for the certification card and replacement card. And this will be consistent with other fees set by TWRA. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments for the sponsor? Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you. To Representative Eldridge, I appreciate you sending the information to my office. I know I brought those concerns up in subcommittee, and those answers have switched my vote to being a yes. So I appreciate you getting that information to us and clarifying that for the committee.
Glad to.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, please open the vote. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Thank you for that. And House Bill 530 moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Next, we have House Bill 921 by Chairman Sapicki. I have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized on House Bill 921.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 921 changes the term in Tennessee Code annotated from firing to shooting, does not alter TWA operations, require new materials, or generate additional expenditures for state or local government. It also, the fee provisions for outdoor sport firing ranges operating before July 1st of '98 are outdated and no longer impact current operations. Public Chapter 1056 of 2024 clarified TWRA's authority to hire concessionaires, allowing TWRA to manage ranges without relying on an obsolete fee. Mr. Chairman, that's what the bill does, sir.
Okay. Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, are you ready to vote? Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Thank you, sir. And House Bill 921 moves on to government operations.
Thank you, Chairman.
Now, committee will be moving back to item number 5 on our calendar, House Bill 1303 by Chairman Grills. I have a motion and a second. Chairman Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I present the bill, I take a point of privilege, if it's okay, personal privilege. I'd like to recognize the Ag Star group from West Tennessee. It's a bunch of, and you may have already recognized them, have you? Okay, just want to make sure. The Ag Star group from West Tennessee, they're a bunch of young leaders in the agriculture community. So if you guys would and gals would stand up and let us see who you are.
Thank you for recognizing them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Farm Bureau puts together a group, and I'm not exactly sure who all funds it, but there's lots of folks that put a lot of effort in to make sure that these youngsters get to have some leadership training in the world of agriculture. So thank you for all you do, Mr. Fennell, and whoever else is helping you. Now on the bill, Mr. Chairman, this bill will set a uniform expiration date of June 30th for several license and fees for the Department of Agriculture. It's pretty much a house cleaning bill. It deals with feed license, food and manufacturing license, food warehouse license, dairy distributors license, dairy trade products manufacturing license, milk samplers license, and a frozen dessert manufacturing license. And that's pretty much what it does. It is a cleanup bill.
Thank you for that. Any questions on this bill? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. And please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, we have 16 ayes.
Thank you for that. Motion carries, and House Bill 1303 moves on to calendar and rules. Next, we have item number 6 on our calendar, House Bill 126 by Chairman Vidal. I have a motion and a second. Chairman Vidal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a bill on behalf of the Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation and the Division of Natural Areas. Currently, this department administers the Natural Areas Preservation Act of 1971, and we have 84 natural areas designated since the passage of this act. This legislation before you has 3 parts. First, it adds 4 new state natural areas to the system in Tennessee. 2 of those are in Rutherford County, 1 in Hamlin County, and 1 in Morgan County. Second part expands 6 current natural state areas across the state. And third, it updates boundaries based on current GPS and surveys. And so with that, I would just say that I'd appreciate your support, and also that the 4 new state areas were purchased with state land acquisition funds, and one was donated to the state by the Nature Conservancy. All acquisitions were from willing sellers, and no eminent domain was involved. With that, I'm available for questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that thorough explanation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. Please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
The motion carries. House Bill 126 moves on to calendar and rules. Next, we have item number 12, House Bill 220 by Chairman Reedy. I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. Chairman Reedy, you're recognized on House Bill 220.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This is a repeat of last session, and it has to do with Perry, Stewart, Houston, and Humphreys County being allowed to join the West Tennessee River Basin Authority. And it's an interesting bill that we passed it in the House and Senate, and then it was not funded. And of course, if we look at the Mark calendar, the fiscal impact of it, that it also shows that administration position, it's flagged for fiscal impact. But David Blackwood, the director of West Tennessee River Basin Authority, is happy to come speak to us once again if necessary. And I was on the phone with him this morning, and he said, no, he was in support of this bill, and really in support of it because the funding that would come from TEMA and ECD because of past flooding would more than wipe out the fiscal cost of this legislation, which means I've got some work to do when I go into Finance, Ways and Means. But it's very concerning to me that Humphreys County was flooded. I lost 20 citizens in that flood. David Blackwood and West Tennessee River Basin Authority, I cannot speak enough about them. They showed up and spent a lot of man hours and thousands of dollars helping straighten that out. However, this body, we earmarked $20 million to replace the 2 school buildings that are lost. And even with David on the phone, he said, it's interesting that we have these flood events, and instead of taking care of them annually, that we, the state, TEMA, everybody else shows up, helps clean up, spend a lot of money, and then we're right back into this position again. So I would appreciate this committee's support on this legislation. But like I said, there's some more legwork I need to do. Of course, all of my mayors come back and said, okay, Representative Reedy, let's try this bill again because it's that important to my counties in House District 74, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions? We're going to have Representative Chairman Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Reedy, you and I have talked about this before, and I want to give kudos once again to West Tennessee River Basin Authority and the good work that they do. And I think you were alluding to those work that they are accomplishing in Northwest Tennessee and Southwest Tennessee and Middle West Tennessee. But what you're going to do with this bill and when this legislation changes, and just to get it on the record, is they are going to provide a technical service and engineering services for those 4 counties in Middle Tennessee. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. And that's where you'll see out of the general fund, the first year, $312,900, and it's creating 2 positions for West Tennessee River Basin Authority. And Mr. Chairman, and like you said, I've been watching it because now I also represent West Tennessee, Henry County, Benton County. So every time that there is a flooding event or whatever, the way that West Tennessee River Basin Authority rallies with the technology, the individuals, and the equipment to take care of those situations. And it's interesting, Kentucky Lake is part of that basin that affects West Tennessee. Well, all my folks on the east side, which are these 4 counties, are like, well, hey, we're part of this basin drainage area, and we have the same problem.
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that, when those 4 counties get put into that, there is a minimal fee that they have to pay, just like every other county in West Tennessee pays currently. And over the past years, they've paid into a fund, and then they will these new counties will be paying into that fund to help facilitate those works and those efforts in those counties. Correct,
Chairman Reedy?
Chairman Grills, that is correct. And an example is Benton County, which is already part of it. That's $30,000 a year that county earmarks for that effort. And of course, the flooding events that were taking part in Humphreys County, it was interesting. They said, we don't understand Humphreys County. Every year we clean out our creeks and our flood prone problem areas. Why are you not doing it? And then that's because they don't belong to the West Tennessee River Basin Authority.
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I plan on supporting the bill, but I just want to get on record once again that if every government agency operated as efficiently as the West Tennessee River Basin Authority, we would have a whole lot less fussing and a lot more accolades going out. So kudos to the folks in Northwest Tennessee River Basin Authority and the works that they accomplish every year.
Amen. Thank you.
No question about that. Any further question or comments? Representative Alexander?
Thank you, Chairman Reedy, for bringing this bill. And the only thing that I could say is that I wish that the Western would come east because after our floods, I think we could definitely have used their wisdom.
Chairman Reedy?
Thank you for that response, that question. And of course, I've been working on this for several years with TDEC, with David Black, with West Tennessee River Basin Authority. And that was one thing that we sat down and was redrawing plans that we could actually make like a Middle Tennessee River Basin Authority. But because of Kentucky Lake, that David said, hey, here's a better idea. But the opportunity to create river basin authorities in the state code, so at any time, if anybody in this room or somebody that's watching remotely has a question, what's going on in their counties, I'm not necessarily a professional about it, but I'm steeped in the code and how that process would play out. And of course, the subcommittee where we talked about this previously, it was the Great Dust Bowl. And so the federal government required each state to put in code to create authorities like this to take care of soil, water erosion, all of that. So we quit running all of our soil and land down the drain or to the Mississippi or wherever. So there are the opportunities to do that. But keep in mind, just like Benton County, that 30,000, when we do this, there's going to be a tax on we, the people of those counties, of those communities to put this in place. So there's a lot of help out there, but it's just a matter of working the mechanics of it to get it done.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, clerk, please open the vote. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Thank you for that. And the ayes have it. House Bill 220 moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Next on our list, we have item number 13, HJR 150 by Chairman Doggett. We have a motion second. Chairman Doggett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Joint Resolution 150 urges the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture to complete a comprehensive economic study on the effects of the Bradford Pear in agriculture and forestry across our state.
Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes.
Thank you. And the ayes have it. HJR 150 moves on to calendar and rules. I will pass the gavel to Chairman Martin.
Thank you, Chairman Todd. We are On item number 14,
Motion.
motion and a second. Chairman Todd, I understand that there are, it's House Bill 0901, and we have a couple of amendments that have been offered. One by Representative Jones is 00, well, Representative Jones, you tell me, what is the First Amendment?
This one.
You recognize.
Oh, thank you. So the First Amendment is drafting code 003880. And do I need to make a motion?
Okay, there's been a motion. There's a second. Chairman Grills, let me recognize you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Todd, this being your bill, this amendment that Representative Jones has submitted, is that a friendly amendment?
It is not.
Okay.
Chairman Grills.
Chairman Martin, I would like to make a motion, so this not being a friendly amendment, that we move this amendment to the table.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second to table. Representative Jones, you have a few moments to explain about the tabling motion, to speak to the table.
Explain what the amendment.
The motion is to table. You have a few moments to be able to speak about the tabling motion.
Thank you. I think it's unprecedented that we don't get to speak about what the amendment is. This is simply to create a study of how we can support our Century Farms in Tennessee. There's no fiscal note on this amendment. It's simply to give some support to this recognition that we're giving Century Farms, which are farms that have been owned by the same family for over 100 years. And so this would simply require a study to see what are some barriers that our farmers are facing, whether that's, uncertain climate, whether that's the business markets, whether that's land loss due to development. Every hour in Tennessee, we lose 10 acres of farmland. And so this is simply trying to study to see how can we support these historic and culturally important spaces in Tennessee. So I don't know how it's an unfriendly amendment. It simply is trying to see ways we can support our farmers, which is a nonpartisan issue. And again, there's no fiscal note on this amendment. It's a pretty straightforward amendment, just saying that we want to do a study as a part of this. I met with some of the Century Farm owners who own Century Farms in Tennessee, and they want to keep their farms and their families, but they are facing barriers. In Tennessee right now, since this program was founded, there have been 2,244 farms that have been certified Century Farms.
Representative Jones, if I could interrupt you, could we get to the tabling part of this? That's the motion that's on the table that's in front of us is to table the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't get to explain what the amendment was. So I don't know. We were tabling something. We don't know what's in the amendment. And so of those, 96 have been sold out of family. So 96 of those Century Farms, they could not keep within their family because of financial burdens, because of pressure to sell from development. And so this is just, again, to study how can we support our farmers that are in all of our counties, these Century Farms, which are important for future generations of Tennesseans. So I would hope that would be friendly and would hope that the committee would vote against this tabling motion. Thank you.
Okay, you've heard the explanation. The motion is not on the amendment. The motion is on the table. And so if you're in favor of tabling amendment number 1, say aye. Aye. If you're opposed, say nay.
No.
Okay, well, the motion to table passes. And we move to the second amendment.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
My parliamentary inquiry was for every vote, should it not be a roll call vote on the board?
As the chair, this is not a final action, and so therefore it doesn't have to be on the board.
Okay.
We're moving to amendment number 2. Representative Jones, that has been offered by you as well. If you would tell us about that, the number for that amendment.
Thank you. Should I explain the amendment first?
We got to get the number.
Okay. The drafting code for this one is 003878.
Okay.
And I make a motion. And I would like to explain the amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've had a motion and a second by Representative Jones.
And I would like to be recognized.
Excuse me. And we've had a motion by Representative Jones, a second by Representative Bain, and I recognize Chairman Grills at this time.
Sir, the sponsor gets to explain.
Excuse me, Representative Jones. I'm the one that's running this part of the meeting. Excuse me, but yeah, I've recognized Chairman Grills. Chairman Grills, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would like to ask Chairman Todd once again, is this a friendly amendment or is this amendment been put on without any notification of you?
This is not a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Chairman Martin. I would like to also make a motion that we send this to the table because it is not a friendly amendment.
Thank you. We've heard a motion and a second to table. Representative Jones, you have a few moments to explain why you don't think this amendment should be tabled. That is what we're discussing, the tabling motion.
Thank you. There are a total of 2,148 Century Farms in Tennessee. Of those, only 14 are owned by African-American farmers. And so this is simply to find ways to support this very important history in Tennessee, where only 14 of these farms are left in our state, Black-owned Century Farms. For generations, Black farmers have worked the soil in Tennessee, but the number of Black farmers have significantly declined across the United States in the last century. Part of this is due to institutional discrimination and land distribution policies that favored white farmers and landowners. Land loss among Black farmers far outpaces that of white landowners. Between 1910 and 1997, African Americans lost about 90% of their farmland. From the 1920s to today, the percentage of Black landowners steadily dropped from 14% to only 1.3% across the nation. These are not my words. These are actually taken from a page from a Black-owned Century Farm in Benton County called Moore Family Farms, which is in Representative Reedy's district. This is from their words. And so meeting with some of our Black-owned Century Farm owners, they want us to support them. And so I don't see how this is unfriendly. Every member of the committee was informed of these amendments as per the regular process. And so it's an unfriendly because it's coming from me because I'm a Democrat or because I'm young or because I'm Black. Let me know what's the reason why it's unfriendly. But I think that this is a friendly amendment. We're all here to support Black Century Farms. I don't know why this would be unfriendly to say, how can we support our farmers where there's less Black-owned Century Farms and there are members of this committee. We have 16 members of this committee, only 14 left in our state. There were 15, but one family had to sell it out of their family farm because of financial costs. Again, this is simply trying to protect these important historical sites for Tennessee history. And to all the members of this committee who are tired of this hyper-partisanship, I would ask you to vote against this tabling motion because there's been no reason to say why this is an unfriendly amendment, simply because we don't believe that Black members should be treated equal in this committee is the only reason that I can suspect from that. And so I wish that the person making the amendment would have asked, why is this unfriendly? Or I was happy to send you the information. I forwarded it to every member of this committee's office as per the process. But again, the sponsor, there was some behind the scenes conversations happening to orchestrate this so that we are not even treated as equal members of this committee. And you should be ashamed of yourself. That is wrong. And it's a bad example for our children.
Representative Jones, we are moving to the motion. We're not going to disparage other members of this committee or try to read their hearts and minds. The motion before us is a tabling motion. It's not for or against the amendment. It's for or against the tabling of the amendment. If you're for tabling this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, say nay.
No.
Okay, and the motion to table passes. So we are back on the original bill by Representative Todd, House Bill 0901 that's unamended. Chairman Todd, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill enacts the Tennessee Century Farms Act, which requires the Commissioner of Agriculture to establish a Century Farms program to recognize Century Farms in continuous operation for more than 100 years in the state for purposes of promoting awareness of the Century Farms and interest of agriculture in the state. And this is a program that has been in place but has never been codified. So that's what we're doing, is kind of putting it officially in law. And I would appreciate your support for this.
This question's been called on the bill.
We can't even ask questions. We can't even ask questions. My name was
Okay.
on.
The question.
He wasn't recognized.
Okay. Excuse me just a second.
He wasn't on the list to be recognized.
I understand. Turn me off. Okay, the question's been withdrawn. I want to recognize Representative Jones.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the representative who pulled back the question. I just was curious to the sponsor, are you aware of how many Century Farms are in Tennessee?
Chairman Todd,
I do not have that number.
Representative Jones.
Since this program was started 50 years ago in 1975, 2,244 Tennessee Century Farms have been designated. Of those, 96 have been sold out of the family. Are you aware of any of the barriers that these families have faced to sell their farm, or the reason why they were forced to sell their farm?
Representative Todd, Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be glad to answer questions that are on the bill.
One more question.
Thank you. The response I got from some folks who work with the program is this: as far as the challenges for today's Century Farms, they likely vary depending on which of the farmers you ask. But some basic ones include the difficulty for small farms to compete in today's market, the fact that those in the next generation often prefer not to farm, and the development pressures on land throughout the state. And so these are some of the barriers that some of our Century farmers brought to us. And so my last question to the sponsor is there anything in your bill that will actually financially support or provide any support to Century Farms in our state, or is this merely a symbolic gesture? Can you name anything specifically in the bill that will help our Century Farms to stay open and that they can be kept in their family?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Okay, previous question's been called. Mr. Clerk, we are going to move to voting at this time. And if you would open the board, and if you are in favor of House Bill 0901, vote yes. If you are opposed, vote no. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the vote?
Mr. Chairman, we have 15 ayes, 1 present not voting.
And the bill passes. Thank you. To calendar and rules. Pass this back to Chairman Todd.
Thank you, sir. And that is all the business we have before the committee. If there are no other items of business, we will go out of session to have some presentations. So without objection, we're out of session. First, we have a presentation by the Tennessee Forestry Association. We have their annual report to present today. So I'd appreciate you guys approaching and find a chair with a microphone. We'll recognize Mr. Midget first. You're recognized, sir. State your name and your affiliation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Todd. My name is Tom Midget, and I, for the last 3 years, have had the honor of serving as chairman of our State Forestry Commission. And this is probably the last time you're going to see me in this role, because the torch will be passed shortly. You have before you today the 2024 annual report of the Tennessee Forestry Commission. It's my pleasure to again present this report to you. I want to express our appreciation to Governor Lee, to you members of the General Assembly, and particularly the support of Commissioner of Agriculture Charlie Hatcher and the activities of the Division of Forestry and the Tennessee Forestry Commission. Commission also wants to recognize the roughly 500 individuals, especially our state forester, Heather Slayton, who comprise the Division of Forestry of the state of Tennessee. These men and women advise and support individual forest landowners and industries in every county of the state, while at the same time very effectively managing our state forest for both timber growth and for recreation. Each of our state forests, I'm pleased to say, is vibrant, is growing, and in some cases overused, but that's a good thing, I think. the same men and women who do the above items also comprise one of the most efficient and proficient wildland firefighting and prevention organizations in the country. Tennessee is not immune, as we remember well from 9 years ago, the Holocaust that we had in Sevier County and in some cases in Blount County with the wildfires of 2016. We frankly have wildfires then. However, I don't want to present in any fashion a doomsday report, but we have some serious concerns in this state of the exposure that our population has to a potential fire event of the type that recently happened in Maui County, Hawaii, in Los Angeles County, California, and other places in California. We are growing in this state, and we are growing into the forest, so to speak. You can see here on the screen the dark orange areas where our population is moving into the what we call the wildland urban interface. And the wildland urban interface, as you can see, particularly clearly up and down the East Tennessee Valley, but also particularly down in Hamilton County, Signal Mountain, Missionary Ridge, Davidson, Robertson, Sumner County, even a spot in Madison County and down in Shelby County. There is a significant risk to roughly 87% of the population of this state. That means that we have to prepare. That means that we have to train. And this training, and we also have to educate, because by preparation and training and education, we can not only suppress the fire when it starts, in some cases we can prevent the fire from ever starting, because wildfire 99% of the time is directly related to human activity. And this is where education and prevention can mean so much. We are losing roughly 10 acres of agricultural and forest land in this state every 10 minutes. An acre a minute we're losing of agricultural and farmland to development in this state. And again, I say this development is spreading out basically into the woods. People like to live with a tree canopy, surrounded by woods. But with that comes some exposure and some risk. We have in this state roughly 1,000 wildfires annually. They, on an average year, will burn roughly 18,000 acres. One of the educational and training activities that we are proud of and we hope to be able to expand on is the working with both paid and volunteer fire departments across the state. We need these volunteer and local fire departments to help in wildfire suppression particular. In most cases, they are the first responders. It is not until the fire progresses to a large degree that the Division of Forestry brings in the heavy equipment, so to speak. But many wildfires start on the side of the road, a campfire getting away from somebody in a campground, and could be suppressed if the training were there and if the equipment were there. It could be suppressed by a tank on the back of a pickup truck. And this is what we are working toward and striving to be able to offer the fire departments around the state with grants to have equipment that they would have available to them and training on how to use that equipment and how to respond to wildfire when it does occur in their jurisdiction. We learned a lot from the 2016 Sevier County fires that we had. We have learned, Sevier County has learned how to better prepare for wildfire, what they can do to prevent wildfire, and that is beginning to spread literally across East Tennessee and the state. Blount County is doing more to recognize the potential for wildfire. Blount County, just like Sevier County, Monroe County, even up toward Unicoi County, people are liking to live in those mountains and they're liking to live out in the woods. So the exposure is there, the risk is there. We've just got to be better prepared for it. The other thing that our Division of Forestry does very well is to maintain and make available to our residents and our tourists the 16 state forests that we have across the state. What we are finding is as our population increases, the pressures on our state forests are increasing also. To some case, our state forests are being abused, and that doesn't help anybody. But the fact of the matter is, it has cost several $100,000 and the budget of the Division of Forestry to restore bridges and roads and trails in state park that have been abused by off-road vehicles, for instance. Just last year, we had an instance down in Franklin State Park where we had almost $1 million in state property that was damaged by vandals. Wiring pulled out. This not only was this damage to vehicles that were parked there, it took these vehicles out of service to fight wildfires for a substantial amount of time while repairs were being made. We have just got to come up with a better means to protect the investment that this state has in not only its state forests, but the equipment that we use to maintain those state forests and that we use to fight wildfire in the state. So basically, having said that, I would like to answer any questions that any members have.
Thank you, Mr. Midget. We'll go to Chairman Grills first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm probably going to ask Ms. Heather if that's okay. I wanted to hear about the different state-owned properties that you guys manage at the Forestry Department.
Ms. Slayton?
Thank you. Good morning. Heather Slayton, State Forester, Assistant Commissioner, Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Division of Forestry. So currently the Division of Forestry, we own and manage 16 state forests across the state. So that total is roughly around 174,000 acres. And we strategically located those state forests in different eco regions so we can demonstrate sustainable forest management across different forest types. And
Chairman
additionally, in addition to the state forest, we also have numerous properties on which that we have work centers, offices, fire towers, and whatnot.
Chairman Grills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's my understanding that you guys are top notch in what you do as far as recognized across the nation. And I appreciate that we don't have the problems that they're having in California and other places because you guys do such a good job managing our forest here in Tennessee. But also, last week we had TWRA come before us and they made a presentation in the subcommittee and they brought up, if my memory serves me correct, I believe they have 1.6 million acres that they actually own. And I believe manage, I see TWRA back there in the back correcting me. That's what happens when you try to remember at 43. So they manage 1.6. Then you've got 500, I think there was 550,000 acres of maybe the Parks Department that they mentioned. Do you guys work with them to manage those forests, or does TWRA and the Parks Department manage those independently?
Ms. Slayton?
Thank you. That's a really good question. Thank you very much, Representative, for bringing that up. In 2019, we came together as Department of Ag, TWRA, and TDEC to form the State Lands Group, so we can better manage all of the lands in those agencies more collaboratively and more efficiently. We, as you mentioned, we all have our different expertise. We do believe that the Division of Forestry, we are the subject matter experts for forest management. We've been doing it for 111 years. So we are very knowledgeable about the science behind managing for sustainable forest. But we do lean heavily on TWRA on how to manage wildlife habitat and within those forests. And then as Mr. Midget over here was talking about, we are learning how to manage for better recreation experience on our state forest, because that has not been a major pillar of our mission up until now. But we are blessed to have beautiful state forests across the state, and a lot of people in our state and out of state enjoy coming out to our state forest. It provides more of a remote experience. You know, we don't have cabins or lodges, or, you know, we do have some trails, but it's more of a remote experience that people seek out there. So, but it's incumbent upon us to manage for their safety as well, to provide for their safety. So we are leaning on TDEC to help us understand how to better manage the recreation aspects, as well as obviously they're experts in threatened and endangered species. So within all of our forests, we lean heavily on their expertise on how to best manage for those species. But as the State Lands Group was established to do just that, to make sure that all three of us are operating as the most efficient natural resource managers for all citizens across the state, to better be stewards of not only the resource but taxpayer dollars.
Thank you for that. Chairman Grills, anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so what I'm understanding you say is like TWRA helps you manage the wildlife on your forest, and maybe you help them manage their forest and their WMAs and the different properties that they own. And when a few years ago, we had a bill they were talking about cutting some or harvesting some timber, and there was a big fight over that. Is that not a normal practice within the forestry management process to actually harvest timber that's ready to be cut? Is it not healthy for those timbers to be cut?
Ms. Slade?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is the forest in Tennessee. We are derived from disturbance, historic disturbance. So if you don't disturb the forest as a manager, nature is going to do it for you. And so our forests need to be actively managed to the point where they are providing a variety of services and values. And obviously on state forest, we support local economies in managing and harvesting our forests when they are decided to be at a right time for harvesting. But you also can harvest forests to create essential early successional wildlife habitat as well. So the way that the Division of Forestry, we sell timber in a very transparent and method. We put all of our timber out for a competitive bid, and those bids are live streamed. So the opening of the bids is very transparent to the public, and it's all in a competitive process. And so we've helped TWRA also adopt our rules by which we sell timber. And then we've also helped TDEC manage some of their timber on either their natural areas or their state parks when there has been a very destructive storm event or when they've needed to manage for forest health. So we do offer that as a service because we've been selling timber through this process for decades now.
Chairman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to go to Mr. Midget. You may have a comment, and we don't have much time. We are really cutting it close.
One point I want to make, Mr. Chairman, for those of you like me that didn't realize this, our state foresters have no law enforcement capability whatsoever. We can't write, if we see somebody abusing or even damaging a state forest, we can't write them a ticket. We can't issue them a citation like TWRA or like a state park ranger can. All we can do is call local law enforcement and hope that this bad person will still be there 20 minutes later when the deputy gets there from Winchester or from Henderson or Lexington or wherever the sheriff's office is.
Thank you for that. Now we have two people on our list, and guys, we need to keep this really short. So Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll speak really quickly. God, when he put man in the garden, he told him to keep it and keep the trees too. Just stay away from that one tree that got us in trouble. So a couple thoughts to preface my question for you. And this is kind of a thought for next year, the 2025 report. 71% of the earth is covered by water, yet our forests produce 28% of the oxygen for the world, which means our trees are producing more per capita, if you will, than even the oceans or the fields. And we need about 19.5% oxygen to survive as human beings. So my questions are these quickly. Is there a mix of species that we should explore to ensure a healthy atmosphere in Tennessee? Does that help? And maybe this goes to that relationship with TDEC as well. Does that change our replanting regimes when we do harvest the forest? And then thirdly, do we have access to any studies of oxygen content in the atmosphere, urban versus rural, and can we affect that and the quality of life for people by how we replant our forest?
Ms. Slayton, real quick, if you can
Yes,
hit
sir.
those.
Thank you.
And we can have you back for another day.
Be happy to, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The answer to the first question is diversity. We need a diversity of tree species all across our landscape. That's really what's going to keep it sustainable and keep it thriving. And then that diversity of forests need to be actively managed. And so there's a forest health issue that's popped up. We as humans needed to intervene to address that issue and create the healthy, resilient forest that we all come to rely on. And I mean, the answer to everything is trees. Well, as my commissioner says, that's answer to everything is farming and trees, farming and forest. So the more trees that we do have out there, the healthier that we're going to be, bar none. I mean, whether it's going to be in the urban environment and the rural environment, and to keep those trees actively growing. There's a difference between old senescent trees and then younger, vibrant and growing trees. So we just have to have that diversity across the landscape. But we are growing 3 times more trees in Tennessee than we are harvesting. That is a good thing for oxygen, but it might be a bad thing for overcrowding and a dense forest that could lead to problems down the line if we don't actively manage them.
Thank you for that. Chairman Reedy, you're recognized.
Thank you. Always good to see you, sir. Here's my challenge, and I'm working on it, and Mr. Chairman and committee members, that you may have this situation too. Of course, Houston County, and of course, it's the volunteer fire department, and they're looking for a brush truck, a heavy-duty pickup truck to put that equipment where they can get grants to do that. Certainly with your help, Heather, is just anybody in the room or watching the live streaming, let us know how we can help our counties and discover funding for these vehicles. And there is the challenge that it's a lot of vehicles now that they're not owned by the state, they're on leases. So they go back to the leasing company. So there's no way to go back and get those. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Chairman Doggett, last on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Midget said something that spawned an inquiry here. Throughout my district, I see signage and the radio station will have ads playing and there'll be stuff in the newspaper about certain times of year there's no burning or it's by permit only. Who does the enforcement on that? Because I do get a lot of questions about that, about those times of year if they do burn. Who is in charge of the enforcement on that?
Ms. Slayton
The Division of Forestry, Department of Agriculture is.
or Chairman Doggett?
So they can issue citations or what have you in that case, or do they utilize local, help instruct or work with local law enforcement on that? What's the process?
Ms. Slayton?
Correct. So, well, I will actually add to my question. My answer was there are certain municipalities that also operate their own burn permit system, but and then we do have an agricultural crime unit within the Department of Agriculture that helps us enforce that. But then local law enforcement also is assisting that. But from October to May is when those burn permits are requisite, and it is by statute.
Thank you for that. Appreciate you guys being here and what you do for our forests across the state and for our people. So thank you again. Next, we have a presentation by Pacific Legal Foundation. If they could approach. We'll recognize Chairman Vital for a personal point of privilege. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize someone who's come in who's very important to conservation real quickly. The conservation kid from my district, Cash Daniels, known throughout the state as an ambassador for TDEC and TWRA. I think he just broke 45,000 tons of trash that he's picked up out of the Tennessee River. So I want to recognize him. And his brother Colt.
Very appropriate.
Carts them all around the state. So thank you for being here.
Thank
Appreciate
you. For that. Very well recognized. But with the Pacific Legal Foundation, we have Mark Miller. Feel free to begin your presentation, sir.
Mr. Chair. My name is Mark Miller. I am a senior attorney with Pacific Legal Foundation. I thank you for the invitation to speak today about property rights and the housing crisis. As I said, senior attorney with Pacific Legal Foundation. Pacific Legal Foundation, for your committee members, is a nonprofit law firm founded about 50 or so years ago. Then Governor Ronald Reagan was sued over some welfare reform laws by the ACLU. And he said, why are there no organizations like the ACLU that perhaps come from the little guy's side? And from that remark from then Governor Ronald Reagan, Pacific Legal Foundation was born. We have spent about 53 years now fighting in the courts for the little guy, generally against the government. We try to take cases to the Supreme Court on property rights, also free speech, also the right to earn a living, and also the separation of powers. And we've had some success at the Supreme Court. We were 18-2 at the Supreme Court in the 20 cases they've agreed to hear. Now, that doesn't mean we are 18-2 in all the cases. We take many cases to the Supreme Court of the United States that they don't agree to hear. But when we get our cases there, they tend to agree with us. And as I said, we sue the government. We sue local government, state government, and federal government. And if you have another government, I'd be happy to sue them too. That being said, as I said, 12 years with Pacific Legal Foundation, but I also have been on the other side of the V, if you will. I spent 3 years working for then South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem as her general counsel, chief of staff, and unborn child advocate. And so I do understand that, you know, when working for the governor, that was an opportunity of a lifetime, and it gave me the opportunity to see that oftentimes the government is trying to do the right thing, but sometimes they might need a little help from the outside. And certainly I had amazing opportunities to work with legislators like yourselves up there in South Dakota. It was helpful. It showed me how things work, and now that makes me a better attorney representing the interests of the little guy when he or she believes the government is unreasonably interfering with their rights. Now, I recognize I'm here today in front of the Agriculture Committee, and so I'm going to describe one case before I talk about housing more generally, the Sackett case, because I know that coming up this session, you may be looking at a wetlands bill, and Pacific Legal Foundation were the lawyers that litigated the Sackett case. And so I'll tell you the story of Mike and Chantel Sackett. I know many of the committee members are probably familiar with the Sackett case, but not with the story. Mike and Chantel Sackett were a young married couple who wanted to build a home in a subdivision near Priest Lake, Idaho, that was for the most part built out, the subdivision that is. Their lot was not on Priest Lake, but it was down the street from it. Despite being in a subdivision, the EPA decided in its infinite wisdom that the property was wetlands and they needed a Clean Water Act permit if they wanted to build. When they didn't get one, the EPA threatened them with fines of $37,500 a day just for turning dirt, as they say, until they turned the dirt back, as it were. The EPA then claimed the Sacketts had no choice but to come to heel. They could not even sue. That's when PLF got involved. That was back in 2007. As I mentioned earlier, we're a nonprofit law firm. We represent individuals for free at no charge. We were able to represent Sacketts, and in 2012, the Supreme Court agreed with us unanimously that the Sacketts had a right to sue. Remember, the EPA had said they had no right to even question the $37,000 and $37,500 a day in fines. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's wrong. You do get to sue and say that the EPA is wrong, that your property does not have waters of the United States on it under the Clean Water Act. And if it doesn't, then the EPA can't demand that you get a 404 permit. We then had to litigate for another decade. I'm not exaggerating. We had to litigate for free for another decade to get the Supreme Court to finally rule in their favor that their lot in a single-family residence zoned neighborhood that was not on Priest Lake did not have waters of the United States on it, and so they did not need a permit. Their case is a good example of all the work we do at Pacific Legal Foundation, but I think it's an important case to mention here in an agriculture committee. If you want to know why there's a housing cost problem in our country, the Sackett story is definitely an example. But for a nonprofit law firm like Pacific Legal, the Sacketts would never have been able to build their home. And even as it is, they had to fight for 15 years just to get the right to build. So as I said, I know the legislature will be considering a wetlands bill, and I emphasize I'm not testifying on that bill today, but I'll note that I saw a quote from your state governor, Bill Lee, where he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said the point of the bill, like that wetlands bill, is to quote, I'm paraphrasing, find out what is just the right balance between how we protect and preserve and how we create an environment that allows for growth and expansion in our state. I could not agree with that sentiment more, and I'll note that the Supreme Court of the United States has effectively been telling us that we've been putting the thumb on the scales, the government bureaucracy, or administrative state, putting the thumb on the scales against growth and expansion for too long and by far too much. That is why a case like Sackett was decided the way it was, and also other cases that Pacific Legal has taken that I could talk about. When it comes to any wetlands bill, I would hope that you all consider making sure that certain activities are exempt from any land use restrictions. Again, these exemptions are important to mention in an agriculture committee hearing. In the Clean Water Act, those exemptions, they're called the 404F exemptions, are about agriculture. So if you're going to have a wetlands bill, you should be exempting, as Congress did in the Clean Water Act, normal farming, silviculture, ranching activities like plowing, seeding, cultivating, drainage, and harvesting, construction and maintenance of farm ponds, stock ponds, irrigation ditches, or the maintenance of drainage ditches, construction of temporary sedimentation basins, and construction or maintenance of farm roads, forest roads, or temporary roads for moving mine equipment. So again, I think the state should be sure to be protective of the environment, but it should also be sure to protect farmers. No one cares more about the environment than farmers, and the exemptions in the Clean Water Act reflect that. And I hope Tennessee will make sure those exemptions are protected here as well. I know I've already spoken more than 5 minutes, so I'll just note quickly when it comes to housing, affordability, I want to commend the Tennessee legislature. Prohibitive land use regulation is the primary cause of the housing shortage. It's a problem recognized across the political spectrum. It's really about the question of command and control government. As Americans, we usually believe that the individual has liberty and freedom, but we don't when it comes to land use. We actually have government planners, land use planners, who decide how we're going to plan a community. I would suggest that is the opposite of the American way of life, and it explains why we have the housing cost crisis problem that we do. Control is the key word. Local control should be about the individual who owns their property. I mentioned earlier, I want to commend the Tennessee legislature. 2 issues that the Tennessee legislature has gotten right. Rent control. Several decades ago, the Tennessee legislature banned rent control in the state, and that made rent more affordable. And it allows property owners to use their property as they see fit. Likewise, just a few years ago, the legislature saw fit to ban inclusionary zoning. Inclusionary zoning is the idea that if you force a builder to build housing below and sell it below cost, that somehow those builders can just make up the difference, can just eat the loss in selling that house below the cost it costs to build by charging more to other property owners. That doesn't help the housing cost crisis. And I think it explains why Tennessee is not in the top 10 of states with housing cost problems.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
we are out of time for the
Yes.
committee. We got a hard stop. I want to thank you for traveling so far to come here and share this information with us, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again. Committee, without any objection, we're going to go back into session. Without objection, we stand adjourned.